In the tall trees where the coyotes howl and the frogs sing into the night, there is a big metal shed, and inside is a boat. That boat is where this story takes place. Hello.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the boatyard. What are we doing today?
Bird prevention. Is that a word? Is it now?
Is that a word? Is it now?
Well, you sure know from watching the 5 previous videos that there is quite a bit of peeping going on in this shed, and that's not us.
What an interesting way to put it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you might have heard the very loud bird song in the back. But basically, if you remember at the beginning, the boat had this big bowsprit on it, which meant that we couldn't close the shed doors. And even when we took the bowsprit off, it took a bit of finagling to be able to close the shed doors because the boat is a bit longer than the shed.
Yeah, and it still is not bird proof. There are still gaps here and there because the mast is also in the shed and it's sticking out. So unless we remove the mast and put it somewhere else, we can never close a sliver of a door
Yeah.
fully.
And the birds really took up residence in here.
Yeah.
Like, they really set up house. I mean, they set up a whole town.
It looks more like their toilet, but yeah, I guess.
We have to do something about it because
Yeah.
they are pooping over all of our things. And mission 2, of course, is picking up where we left off from the last episode, and that was all about the opening the decks. So we took the fiberglass off last episode. Deanie ripped that all off. He got a pretty good workout doing that. That was difficult. So now in this episode, we're actually going to lift the plywood up so that we can have a look at the end of those deck beams. We can remove some of that blocking and we can figure out what's going on inside of there and how we're going to approach it.
We're gonna try at least, or did you look into your crystal ball? She's just
I have a feeling you're going to try and I'm
Yeah.
going to film.
You're
The-
just used to everything working.
The difficult stuff like this, I am very, very happy when you do it. And then I can't be blamed for
Yeah.
messing it up.
I will try.
All right, but first, bird duty.
White duct tape, matching colors for the patches we're doing.
Yeah, they've eaten out the insulation and they're sort of trying to live up there. Which is also not great because they're tossing insulation on the floor.
Look at these pants. They are for safety first.
You comfortable up there?
Oh yes.
Are there any nests in the insulation?
No, I don't see signs of it here, but since they like to get into it, I prefer closing this hole
Yeah,
from whatever it is.
I think,
Are they talking to me?
yeah, I think they know what you're doing. A bunch of them just flew in and started chirping really loudly.
They're upset I'm closing their Danish sauna.
Is that what this is?
I don't know.
Well, it probably is really toasty and warm in there.
Yeah.
It looks like you've become a bird yourself,
Yes.
perched up in the rafters.
Well, and I suppose since we're making this a mission, we should maybe try to move the mast.
So that we can close the door completely.
Yeah, otherwise we start this every week, I feel like.
Yeah.
From scratch.
Sure.
So the idea is to move the mast outside. I'm not worried about the elements. That's where the mast is usually, just outside, unprotected. So that's where it's going for now. And to make that easier, I'm trying to remove things from the mast, because as we complete the refit, the mast will also need quite a bit of work. So for now, the shrouds are coming off, the halyards are completely toasted, so those are coming off. It will make it easier to just move a bare pole than to move a pole with a bunch of human fishing nets around it. So now I'm just removing parts. I am practicing myself in patience. This is my sort of meditation.
Your self-impatience.
Yes, because this is frustrating and I should just take the Dremel to it. So this is patience exercise.
What are you trying to do? You're trying to get this shroud off?
I'm trying to get the safety pin out.
Oh. It's not working. Uh-oh.
Problem is it's one leg is twisted, so the dimensions are different, then it doesn't fit. But I will tell it. Oh no, now my long nose pliers became a Chinook salmon beak pliers. You know the Chinook salmon, right?
Uh-huh. And still no luck here.
No, this will bend them more. Well, this is, yes, it requires a little something else now.
What about the Sawzall?
Good one. Sawzall's a bit exaggerated. I would take the Dremel to it or something. So.
Blowtorch. Table saw.
Yeah.
Hey, you got it. Kind of.
This is the most painful safety pin I've ever... You know, there is some truth to... I can always do this, but when the camera is pointing at me, it takes me forever. It's one of those moments. Don't worry, I'll make a whole video on how to take out safety pins. Well, it seems like we are now.
Well, what was the difficulty? It's because it was sized differently and it was twisted.
Yeah, but normally also the twist you can get pretty easy. It's also because it's on the inside of this arrangement. Luckily I can bend this up. Usually not always you can. I'm not trying to be efficient. I'm just having fun in the sun. Look at this. Usually I only have these ones to do that. And now I got the whole toolbox. It's not working. Okay, let's try this one again. Ta-da!
Yay! Even though this was perhaps not the most riveting of boat stories, I do feel like this is sort of a fun thing to include, just because I think it's a very realistic look at the everyday of just like tiny tasks which should be very simple ending up taking longer for whatever reason, because it's stuck or it's rusted or it's the wrong size or whatever else.
Yeah.
So not every episode will spend 5 minutes or however long trying to get a safety pin out, but it is fun to show those little things every now and then.
Totally. So it's more about really knowing all the tricks of if something goes wrong, that the head breaks off of a screw or something. How many different methods do you have to actually get the screw out of there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's many times it's stuff like that.
That's actually really true. I've been finding that a lot as someone who doesn't have as much boat building experience, of just like so much of this is just having your arsenal of methods to keep trying when things go wrong. Because at the beginning, if the screw is stripped or something, I would just be like, oh, what now?
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you have like this whole
Yeah,
arsenal of
I have a
next
method of
steps.
first with the hammer and then
Yeah.
otherwise with the vice grips, and it really depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and otherwise you have to make a new slot in there to, yeah,
Yeah.
all the tricks.
Yeah.
So these 6 remaining shrouds here, they cannot be removed by removing a safety pin because one end is swaged and is inserted by the spreaders. So what I can do is I can remove the Norseman fitting here, and the wire is thin enough to pass through, so I can take them off like that. It's pretty cool that we have Norseman fittings. This really is the way to go on a blue water boat if you do go with wire. Because with wire, this is a solution that you can also fix, replace, and check at sea, whereas the other option would be a swaged fitting, which is one solid piece of stainless which has been pressed on, and there's nothing you can do about it. If it does fail, you need another machine to press a new fitting on, so to speak. And instead here I would have a few spares, and you do have the spare wire, and you can create a new shroud or stay wherever you want. If we do go with wire, we will go with Norseman or similar. Norseman is just a brand. So
Well,
mechanical fitting.
yeah. I mean, we might keep these shrouds too. Like, let's not just be replacing things we don't have to replace. Or at least maybe we replace them after a season or two.
Yeah. If you can, for $1,000, you replace the wiring when you get a boat that you don't know anything about. After 10 years, you should do so anyway. So I'm very much thinking that this is an easy thing to replace.
Okay. Sure.
That people should do more often, actually. And we're just always playing on luck with this one.
I guess you're right. It is an important one, I suppose, if you're going to spend money on anything.
Totally. And I mean, from what I've learned so far on this boat, it's just good to check everything, because they were kind of working on it, and then they've kind of assembled a few things, some to look complete, some to be complete, and you never know. Mm-hmm. Like with the rig, they painted it at one point, and then they just put some shrouds on, but some are missing safety pins, it's not complete, so...
Some were missing safety pins?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But that's a small thing, yeah. Which you see immediately, but just in general, it's incomplete. I mean, the track is somehow on it.
Oh, yeah.
Were they taking it off? Were they putting it back on? Did they install it with washers so for the stainless to be separate from the aluminum? No, they didn't. So everything has to come off.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be redone.
And I'm really happy about that, my love, because I am going to feel very safe on this boat. And that is very important.
That's the whole point I'm doing it.
Oh, yeah, right. So now you're trying to remove the fitting so that it's just bare wire?
Yeah, I have to slide this part up because the wires are bent in here, and there is like a cone put in here. That is what actually prevents it from coming up, because the wires, they bend open here and they have a cone inserted, so it cannot slip past this anymore. But there is sealant in there, and now I'm trying to slide this away, but it's fully gooped in. I mean, properly, I think I would get the heat gun, heat it up a bit, stuff like that, but I just want it to work quick and right now.
Hey, nice. So much easier when you've got the right tools,
Yeah,
right?
right?
It makes such a difference.
Every time, 6 tools. 6 ways of doing it, but you also need 6 tools. Yeah, always away from the body, just like you learned in school.
Most of the time.
And speaking of rigging, I am a believer in Dyneema, so we'll see. We have so many things to do, so it's not a priority right now to plan this part of the refit.
but at one point I will definitely want to go Dyneema. It makes a lot of sense to us.
Well, and in case, I mean, the way you've explained it to me before makes sense, and I think the most compelling part is way less weight aloft, right?
Yeah, that's one reason. I mean, the weight is one thing. It is stronger, so you do have quite a higher safety margin, and it is repairable, and it is visible. Stainless is not. I mean, stainless sounds pretty tough, right? But it really isn't in the marine environment. Stainless can get galvanic corrosion. It's not visible, or it's very, very difficult, and you can get ruptures and failure when you didn't expect it at all. So it's really good to have the visibility and the repairability at sea. Like this Norseman fitting is really a have-to, I find, but Dyneema opens it up to a completely new level where you can store an entire double set of everything you need, and it doesn't weigh much, and you can replace it and repair it anywhere. So this is what the cone looks like. It has a very weird shape apparently, because that's just the Sika and how the wires left the marks. But basically it's a cone with a slot and a hole, because the way this wire is constructed is it has, I forget the correct naming, I'm sorry, but there is a core which is made out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strands, and then you put this cone over it, and then you bend the outer core, the outer strands over it to create this cone, which cannot go past the terminal. But now it's disassembly mode, and now I can take this one out, but first I have to replace them in its spot before I'm able to close it. Alright, but that's one.
Nice.
1 of 6.
Well, I'll come back when you've done a bit more.
You see, and we thought moving the mast would be quick. No, we didn't
I
think
never
that.
think that anything's going to be quick anymore.
Good. One very important step that I think makes this a lot easier is having the mast this way up and not sideways, because sideways it is very flexible. So then it really touches on both ends. Having it vertical instead of horizontal gives it its stiffness. And now the idea is, by having something in the middle, I can push down here and the top also goes up, because it's stiff. Can you see that? How the top goes up?
Yeah. It's got a fender.
Yeah, and now I can go!
Woohoo!
It would be easy if it wasn't for the terrain here.
Thwarted by the terrain.
Here we go.
Without my love for the ocean, I would be long gone by now. It's some kind of devotion that brings me down. That without my love for the ocean, I will be no one, no one.
all this just to get rid of some birds, hey?
Not only. But yeah, and you know what? I don't even think it gets rid of the birds.
No, probably
But still
not.
is one mission off the list. I wanted to move the mast out. Now we can close the doors.
You're really liking that wagon, hey? Yeah. Okay, that's the limit. Hey! The shed is closed. Ta-da! First time in a year the shed has actually been closed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we haven't done anything we thought of when we got up, but we still accomplished. It was a good day,
Yeah. So tomorrow we'll get to opening the decks.
probably.
All
Or
right.
get distracted by something else. There's still something about it that looks funny. I guess it's the hole. We cannot do much about that.
Good morning! It's a new day. The mast is out, the birds are not. Yeah, we'll worry about that later. But it feels good to have the doors closed, finally. And one thing that's very interesting, these are all the parts from the mast, of course, the spreaders and the turnbuckles and the different pieces of hardware that were installed. One thing that's very interesting, which I thought you might like to see, is this kind of corrosion that happens when you install dissimilar metals together without some kind of isolating barrier. So there was a bunch of stainless steel things screwed onto the mast in various locations, and when you have stainless steel screwed onto aluminum without any kind of isolating barrier, then the less noble metal, which is the aluminum, starts to corrode and is basically eaten away. And that's exactly what's happened here. You can see all this pitting around these screw holes. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of. There's so many ways, there's so many pitfalls, if you will, where things can go wrong if not installed properly. So
Also try to limit
on?
holes in aluminum spars or in
Yeah.
every kind of spars. It seems like every time they change the location.
totally. I would say if you are buying a boat secondhand, really try to look beyond the paint, because that was something that was all over this boat. You know, the bulwarks looked really nice from the outside, the decks looked really nice from the outside, the mast looks really nice from the outside. And if you're an unsuspecting buyer, you're like, wow, it looks so new, it looks freshly done. And underneath are all these really huge issues that are literally being painted over. So something to think about. And if you've got your own boat, make sure you don't have dissimilar metals screwed together, have some sort of isolating material. You can get that in the form of a liquid that you sort of paint on there. Ta-da! But now let's move on from the whole mast mission, the whole failed bird mission up to this point. We've got to do more there. And let's move on to the boat and kind of pick up where we left off in the last episode, which was about starting to remove the decks to have a look at the blocking and the ends of the half beams and restoring a bit of structural integrity to those half beams. So let's start with that.
So I've started to disassemble this little test section here. Basically, the 1-inch plywood decks are made up of 1/2-inch sheets, and I was able to remove the top layer of this little section here. As I do so, I am making a drawing because this section is original, to understand how the plywood was placed when this boat was built.
to be able to either reconstruct it or make it better, but not to like make a step backwards. And this is why I'm taking it apart more or less carefully instead of just pry bar and hammer and making 1,000 smaller bits. I am taking the first layer off, and now I will proceed over here with the first layer so that I can see that on the bottom layer where it was put together. I can see that for now it is one piece, and as I move further forward I can see where the joint is. There will be lots of very interesting new things once this is off, because then we see the blocking, we see the beams, and that reveals a lot of things. But making the cut, taking out the nails, and getting rid of this section of plywood will start to become a pretty repetitive job, which will take a couple of days. An interesting fact is that they use ring shank nails. Well, this boat is 40 years old, and also the glue that they have used. I even question if there was glue, but I think it just dissolved over time with humidity being in there, because these two sheets of plywood, they separated real easy. The only sign that there might have been a glue is that there are some remainings of this layer, so there must have been some glue, but it's really not what glues can do or what glues are capable of nowadays. So there's already 2 steps which are nice to know, and this is how it was done back in the days, but I think I will move on to screws and epoxy the 2 sheets together. Again, this works in our favor during disassembly. Basically, I use this, what do you call it again in English? In German you call this ein Geißenfuß, which is a goat foot. You can see from the shape.
Yeah, totally.
It has the 2 toes.
A nail puller. I don't know what you call it in English. Let's just call it a Geißenfuß.
A Geißenfuß. Yeah, I forget. But anyway, basically I use it kind of as a chisel first. This section here you can use the hammer on. And I go further away because I want to dig deeper. These nails are not super hard and they bend easily, especially the head. So if I don't get a good grip on them, I just break it off. And then I also get some help with the pry bar. Like once I've taken 2 or so off, I just try to get them in between and I can lift this whole thing with the nails. As you can see, there's some nails still here. So I'm not trying to take them all out. Okay, I see where the plywood sheet underneath ends. It's right here. Because now the top layer is going over the seam, but the bottom layer, yeah, is cut here.
So the seams are staggered.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's good.
And they're really staggered the way they should.
So down there, the wood's a bit rotten, hey?
Well, yeah, it's going through. Because this is completely rotten here.
Oh yeah.
Of course, this is in better condition. But it still is moist to be from. Yeah, it still is moist.
Well, because this is where the original bulwarks still were, so it was still wet here.
Totally.
basically I'm separating the nails that are going into the blocking. They're all here on the perimeter, which is the blocking, and there's some on the beams.
Wow, the big moment! Woohoo!
Big moment.
I didn't realize that some of the blockings were different sizes. Like this one's really long.
Yeah. Wow, this is so awesome to work in now.
Yeah.
This is really, really nice.
Yeah, this is awesome access. And because you only cut away 6 inches, it means we still have a lot of deck to sort of kneel on and stand on. And
totally.
This is going to be comfortable.
Yeah. And as we said, during the repair, then the cut will come further back. But this is just on the lower section of plywood.
Well, and the cut's only going to come further back on the top layer.
Exactly.
So this is all that's going to be revealed. But
very cool. And here's a beam shelf again. So similar to this beam shelf, the longitudinal one, there is laminated timber, which is fiberglassed over, which goes over the transom.
So we've opened the decks. This has been a long time coming. This has been sort of the ultimate goal. Well, I guess the ultimate goal will be doing the repairs and actually resealing the decks. But this has sort of felt like the thing we're working towards for the last few weeks, really. So I'm happy that we've got this first step. Aladino seems to have developed an excellent method for getting the plywood up. And I think next Aladino will continue along this path, routering out the side decks and prying up the plywood. And then we can start these whole repairs, which is really cool. But so far, I mean, we haven't actually removed most of the blocking yet, and the original blocking is actually screwed in from above. So that'll just require some screws, and maybe there is no glue actually. It might just be the screws. Anyhow, that's for the next episode, and also in the next episode I'm going to introduce you to the project that I'm starting. We've had some discussions about sort of my role in the project, because I think Deanie and I are quite similar in the sense that we're very independent workers and don't always like keep each other in the loop of what we're doing. So we've decided that maybe it's best if we each have a separate project on the boat, so that's going to be a topic next week. And that's it from us for this week. Oh, and we have to finish putting up bird prevention, but we'll get to that. It's not a key story here. Anyhow, thank you for watching, and we will see you again next Friday. Please, if you liked the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so that you get updates whenever we post a new video, which is usually every Friday. These videos are completely audience funded by regular folks at home who, you know, maybe give us $2 a month or whatever they can, whatever they feel is fair. And there's some behind the scenes stuff over on Patreon as well. And we really thank you for that, because without that, this whole project wouldn't be a reality. So pretty cool that we can make this happen. And extra big thanks to these folks whose names are now appearing on screen. We will see you all next Friday.